Alright, today I'm going to be installing a Starfire no drill hydrofoil made by Stingray on my Yamaha 60 horse 4-stroke. Now, I looked at the instructions briefly that were written on the back of the insert. Supposedly you can drill this if you want to for a more substantial mount, but it comes with 2 set screws that require no drilling. On the instructions, it recommends going over your cavitation plate with something like Gorilla Tape and maybe putting between 1 to 2 layers on it, especially in areas where the set screws are going to make contact. But on this motor, if it has a torque tab on it, you need to remove the torque tab. Now, one thing to remember when you do this, it's best to just make a mark to line it back up, because if this thing's not lined back up right, it can cause you to have some issues with your steering. Let's go ahead and take this off real quick and we'll get back to it. Alright, so we got our torque tab off. Like I say, we have our indicating mark down there to put it back in line. It'll correspond with the mark I put on the torque tab. I went and cleaned off the cavitation plate with just some rubbing alcohol, let that dry, and then went around the edge that's going to be covered by the Stingray with Gorilla Tape. You know, they actually recommend Gorilla Tape. And then doubling up where the set screws are going to go, put an extra layer of tape on there. So you want to just, you'll slide your cavitation plate on, get some idea of how far down it's going to go on the motor, and then start your leading edge of your tape there as you work your way around. Used a 12mm socket to get the torque fin off. So when you open up your package, you know, like I say, I went with the white one. Actually, Walmart had these for sale online for $45 and some change, just the white. The other 2 colors, the black and the gray, are still regular price. And when you open your package, you're going to have the 2 set screws. They recommend using Loctite on them. It did not come with Loctite, but I had some left over from a prior project. It does come with the Allen screw you need, and if you decide to do a permanent mount, it comes with the hardware to do a permanent mount. Alright, so let's go ahead and get it put into place and get the set screws on. Right now I'm just going to use the set screws and see how it does, and then we'll get the torque tab put back on. Okay, so here we have it on the cavitation plate. I still haven't put the torque tab back on. That's what I'm about to do next. One thing to consider after you get it on there, you have a lot of room for adjustment before you get your set screws set, is to measure from the end of the tab up to the side of your lower unit. I just used a tape measure for this, but a ruler or whatever instrument of measurement you have will work. On this motor, between the corner of the tab and the side wall of the lower unit is 7/8 of an inch on both sides. And once you get your set screws in and all the way, what I did, and it works good for me, especially with a 2-side operation like this, is I found another Allen wrench. It uses a 3.5 Allen wrench. So I put one on one side and one on the other side. And you can actually look in here and see when the set screw makes contact. If I can get my camera to focus a little bit better, may not be able to see it. So anyway, you can actually look in there and make sure you're not putting a lot of pressure on your cavitation plate once you get those set. So alright, well that's it. Let's go ahead and put this torque tab back in place. You know, we still have our lineup mark down here. I accidentally covered this one up with the tape, but that's no big deal. I can peel that off. There we go. You just barely see the edge of the mark. So Now the torque tab itself was actually fairly easy to get off. I'm surprised. Yeah, I didn't have any difficulty at all getting this thing off. So I'm probably going to put a little bit of Loctite on the head of it, just because I'd hate to lose this thing while I'm in the water. That would not be good at all. Alright, so pause for a minute and I'll get back and we'll get this put back on and call it a day. Alright, so there we have it. The Stingray Starfire no drill hydrofoil. Yeah, we got our torque tab put back in. Went ahead and trimmed off the excess leading edge tape that was sticking past, so just went ahead and trimmed that off a little bit, kind of cleaned up the edges. Hopefully tomorrow when I get off work we can take it out and run. They recommend after you put it on with the Loctite and everything to let it set for about 24 hours before you use it. That's written in the instructions, which comes on the insert. Everything goes good, then I may actually go back and do the permanent mount on it, because it only uses 2 other holes that have to be drilled here and on the other side. So it's far enough away from the main part of the lower unit, it shouldn't be an issue. So eventually, like I say, I'll probably just come back and go ahead and run those through and use the stainless steel hardware it came with to mount it. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get a chance to see how well it works. I know in this 17-foot Aluma weld, my wife and I, usually about 3,500 RPMs is when we break plane. So tomorrow we'll be taking the kids out and we'll see how it does and how quickly I can get on plane without just running it real hard, real fast. So get a chance to use it over a period of time, and all goes well, I'll just come back and post a review on it and see how well everything holds up, if I have to readjust anything or not. So alright, well thank you, and I hope this helps anybody else that's deciding on what they need to do and how to install one. So have a good day.